Hi, my name is Kate Kirkwood. I have a couple of companies. One is called Lead EDU and the other one is called Lead Paint, Clear and Simple. So I'm here today to clarify and simplify the difference between lead-safe renovation and lead abatement. My contact information is at the end of the video. If you have still questions at the end, I'm happy to clarify. Let's look at the details of lead abatement, which those words just kind of go together, don't they? Everybody thinks that they know what lead abatement is. And lead-safe renovation, which is a newer term that's been out there. When we think of lead-safe renovation, we're actually talking about a federal rule called RRP, Renovate, Repair, and Paint. Anytime you have a contractor who is disturbing paint in a house built before 1978, they are required to have this certification, RRP, Renovate, Repair, and Paint. Sometimes you're required to have a lead abatement contractor. If the state tells you you must have, that is, you have an order to abate, then you must have a lead abatement contractor. And there are other times when you need one too. So let's look at those examples. Lead abatement and RRP are not the same. If you want to check and see which certification your contractor has, here's a really quick, easy way to find out. Ask them, how long were you in class for your lead training? If it was Renovate, Repair, and Paint, if it was a federal training for general renovation, they were in class for 1 day. 1 8-hour class where they took a test at the end of the day and they got their certification in class. If they are a lead abatement contractor, meaning they know how to deal with the permanent and complete removal of the lead or covering of the lead in a permanent way, they were in class for either 3 or 4 days. 3 days if they're a worker, 4 days if they're a supervisor. Now, you may not remember the name of the class you took, but you know if you sat in class for 1 day or 4 days. Fair enough? So you can ask that question. Another thing you can do is ask to see their certification and take a look and see what it says on it. In most of the country, if they're certified by the general EPA and HUD certification, which means it will say on it, EPA HUD, that is an RRP certification. And in most of the country, if they were certified by a specific state, like here in New England where I am, if they were certified by New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, etc., it's probably a lead abatement certification. Now, that's not always 100% true. There are 14 states in the country that have been approved by EPA, and EPA has delegated the management of the rule to those states. So if you work in Alabama, Delaware, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, Massachusetts, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oregon, Rhode Island, Utah, Washington, Wisconsin, or Oklahoma, and an Indian Territory, in the middle of 2018, those 14 states plus 1 Indian Territory have taken over the management of the law and are handling it at the state level. The rest of the country, the RRP, or the Lead Safe Renovator designation, is handled by EPA and HUD. Another way to tell which certification you're looking at is what kind of work are they doing. Renovators do work which is typically temporary, right? I'm doing a general renovation. I'm painting this whole apartment so that the next tenant, when they move in, everything looks clean and fresh and new. Or I'm remodeling a kitchen because it's time to update the kitchen. Or I'm painting the outside of the house. I'm fixing a problem. So typically, lead-safe renovation is temporary in the sense that I don't expect it to last forever. How often do you remodel a kitchen or paint an apartment? I don't know, every few years, or maybe every 10 years. But you know it's not expected to last forever. It's temporary. You expect to do it again soon. If it's lead abatement, it is required to be a permanent solution. Now, to be fair, in most states, 20 years is considered permanent. So not really permanent. But meaning if I sheetrock over that wall and I make sure that all the openings are sealed, they're caulked and they're taped and so forth, that is considered a permanent solution because I expect that sheetrock to last for 20 years. If I put a coat of latex paint on the wall, that's not a permanent solution. Another way to tell the difference between renovation and abatement is what is your scope of work? How much of the property are you working on? General renovation is typically a part of the property, meaning I'm a kitchen remodeler. I don't really care if there's holes in the deck outside and people are falling through. That's not my problem. My kitchen is the work I'm concentrating on. Or I'm an exterior house painter. I paint the whole outside of the house, but I don't care if the kitchen's full of mold and hasn't been remodeled in 15 years. That's not my problem, right? I have my scope of work and it's a part of the house. Oh, sure, I know a general renovator might do a gut rehab, but most of the time we're concentrating on a part of the job, right? I have several subs, each doing a part of the job, and they could each be lead-safe renovators. In the lead abatement world, a lead abatement contractor starts their day with a lead report. Their scope of work is the entire house. A lead report is something done by a lead inspector or a risk assessor, typically using an instrument called an XRF. And that means it has a radioactive isotope, it shoots X-rays into the woodwork. When I pull the trigger and shoot it, I get a reading on my screen. It tells me how much lead and how deep. And I write a report. And that report might be 80 lines to one page because I'm shooting every component. And by that I mean every piece of the painted surfaces. So in a door, I might shoot the door itself, the jamb, the threshold, the casing. In a window, I might shoot the casing, the sill, the apron, the well, the header stop, the interior stop, the blind stop, the parting bead, the mullions. All these different pieces might have readings. In a closet, it might be the pole, the shelf, the supports, the baseboard, the floor, the walls. And so all these add up to a lengthy report. 1 page per room, typically 1 page per exterior side of the building, exterior sides of outbuildings, and so on. So a lead abatement contractor starts their day with this report, and every time they complete an item, they tick it off, and they keep on going days, weeks, until every bit of lead in the property has been addressed. And when I say the whole property, I mean the whole property. Inside, outside, dust, and soil. And at the end of the job, that lead inspector, that risk assessor is going to come back in and check and make sure and verify and certify that everything was done completely correctly. Now, you might find a lead-safe renovator who says they tested for lead, but what they mean is they used one of the EPA-recognized test kits, which as of now, 2018, would be either a lead check swab or a D-lead kit. All right, that doesn't mean they had a lead inspector come in, a third party come in and shoot with an X-ray technology. The XRF technology is a very expensive and complicated piece of equipment, gives us a very detailed report. I'm not saying that the lead-safe renovator testing is not accurate or not good. It absolutely is, but it's only those components, they're only testing those components that they're going to be working on, that they're going to replace or where they're going to scrape or sand or somehow disturb the paint. Another thing is to look at intent. What is your reason for being there? And that's perhaps the most important thing that will help you decide whether you need a lead-safe renovator or an abatement contractor. A lead-safe renovator's job is to make a property better, to improve it somehow. And you might be looking at something that's going to make it prettier or cleaner or more valuable. So I'm painting this apartment at tenant turnover so I can rent it. I'm improving the property so I can sell it. Or so it's nicer for me to live in. It's prettier, it's more valuable, it's more energy efficient. Whatever it is I do to make it more valuable, to make it better for me as a user, as an end user. Lead abatement contractors, their goal, their primary focus is to make it safe. And many times they will tell you, we're not making it pretty, we're making it safe. And sometimes that improves the property because it makes it safer for the kids to live there. But sometimes from a purely monetary point of view, it does not improve the property. Maybe I rip out some beautiful old ornate woodwork and I put in some flat 1x stock because it's safe and it's new wood. That's the reality of lead abatement. Their goal is to make it safe, not necessarily to make it pretty. The other thing is the length of time that a contractor is certified. In most cases, a lead-safe renovator is certified for 5 years. If you look at their certification, you should see a 5-year expiration date from the time they took the class. A lead abatement contractor is typically 1 year. Now, there are certain states that have taken over the RRP rules, so you won't always have the EPA and HUD certification. If you're working in Alabama, Delaware, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, Massachusetts, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oregon, Rhode Island, Louisiana, Washington, Wisconsin, or Oklahoma, and an Indian territory, in those categories, in those different states, the EPA has delegated the lead safe renovation RRP rule to the state. So you might see a state certification in those areas. Also, we want to help you deal with this. We want to help you understand it. We want to help you get certified if you need it. We have lots of resources available. Visit our website. We have classes for both abatement and lead safe renovation. We have books. We have videos. We have public presentations that we give. We are available to come and speak to your groups, to do presentations, to answer any questions. My contact information is at the end of this video. Thanks for listening, and work lead safe.